Hey guys, this is CK at CK Education, and today I want to talk to you about the difference between college, what you do in college, and real life, college and career, and how those things are sometimes very different. And a lot of college students and even adults have this misconception that what they did in college prepares them for what they're going to do in their career, or their college success will dictate how successful they are in their careers. If they go to a great school, they'll have a great career. If they did well in school, they'll do well in their career, and on and on. And nothing can be further from the truth. Those two things are mutually exclusive. They really are not related. There's no correlation there. I want to talk specifically about getting a business degree in college and then doing a real business in real life, and how those two things are completely different. So let me just talk about generally about college. So college is, if you think of it, probably at the start of the Industrial Revolution, I guess. It became a place where they needed to have better trained and better educated people entering the workforce into factories. And so a lot of factories, a lot of companies like Ford and Henry Ford, and these people were making these big companies at the time. And this was a new thing. And so he needed better skilled workers. He needed, better trained people, a little bit of a better educated workforce. Who understood intricacies, who understood mechanics and electronics and things like that to make a car. And so colleges played a big role in training people to become certain types of workers in these factories. And it's now become colleges where you go to prepare yourself for a career. So you go to college and you for the most part, study something, a certain major, and then you get a degree in that, and then you go get a job. But understand that a college is a training ground for employees, okay? And I understand that most of you watching and most people are going to be employees. You're not going to be entrepreneurs. You're not going to be business owners for the most part. A very small percent of the population in America are entrepreneurs. They run their own business. Even though there are millions of people who run their own businesses, as a percentage is small. Compared to people who work for corporations and organizations and government agencies and so forth. So, but college is geared towards training people to become good employees. Okay, so this is a very important thing that you have to understand. What you learn in college is when they talk about teamwork and when you're doing this and that and all these kinds of things, they are geared towards the person who is going to work in a company, to be an employee. Now, again, just because you graduate from college, just because you did well in college, doesn't mean that it will necessarily adequately prepare you to become a good employee. You have to have a different mindset and different skill sets, and you have to continue learning. And there may be weaknesses in your self that you need to improve upon to become a good employee. But college in and of itself doesn't prepare you to become a good employee, okay? And again, the college name, college rank, your GPA in college has almost nothing to do with how well you do in real life. Now, I understand there are certain fields like usually anything in the health field, so medical, pharmacy, dental, nursing, physician's assistant, all these kinds of fields, you have to go to college, you have to do well, you have to go to grad school and you have to do well, and then you get your residency and on, and then you finally end up in your career. So I think a lot of that has to do with how well you do in school, okay? And for example, another one might be law. If you're going to be a lawyer, then you got to go undergrad, you have to take the LSAT, and you have to get into law school, and then you have to pass a bar exam, and then you could still be a good lawyer or a mediocre lawyer or a bad lawyer, but you have to go through the schooling to get there. So I think those are very school intensive. But most other things that you do in life, including entrepreneurship and having your own business, have very little to do with anything you learned in school. So the things I often tell my students that, I have an engineering degree, but I have never used anything that I learned in college, all 4 years of college of studying engineering. I've never used any of that for my job as an engineer for 12 or 13 years. I never used anything I learned in school. All the classes that I took in college, I never used any of that to do my work as an engineer. But I had to learn different skills and different mindsets and different skill sets to be good at what I did. But it was not dependent upon school. So, and I specifically want to talk about the business degree and entrepreneurship. Okay, there is nothing farther apart than getting a business degree in college and running your own business. Those two things are so far apart that it almost has nothing to do with anything. So in college, again, I just told you that they are preparing you to be an employee. But if you're an entrepreneur, you're not an employee, you're an employer. You are an owner of your own business. That takes a completely different mindset, a completely different skill set for you to, to succeed in that. And so let me just tell you a quick story. So I was a salaried employee. I worked as an engineer, and I was in sales and management and recruiting and consulting. And I did all those things for about 15 years. And then I decided that I was going to leave that world and I'm going to become an entrepreneur and have my own business. And so since about 2009 until today, I've had my own education company and I'm an entrepreneur. But those two worlds are completely different. And when I started out as an entrepreneur, I have no business degree. I didn't study business. I studied engineering. And so you would think that I was not prepared to become an entrepreneur. But what I learned was entrepreneurship has nothing to do with what you learn in business school in college. In fact, when I went to grad school, this was in my 30s, I just decided I want a graduate degree. So I went to grad school and got an MBA, a Master's in Business Administration. Now you would think that an MBA at a grad school level, you would learn some valuable things to help you in your business. I learned nothing that helped me in my own business, okay? And I knew that going in. I just wanted a graduate degree for some reason, okay? So I just did it, literally, just because I wanted to go back to school. But I knew going in that it would not help me with my own business. So what did I do? I read a lot of books on entrepreneurship. I read a lot of books and I talked to a lot of people. I asked a lot of questions from people who actually succeeded in business. Okay, this is such an important point that I want to get across to you. Let's say you want to be a good investor. So let's say you want to invest in the stock market, and you go to the bank and you say, hey, I have some money, I want to invest in the stock market, and they say, oh, talk to Mr. Jones, and Mr. Jones comes out, oh, how you doing? And Mr. Jones is a financial advisor, okay, and he gets paid commission to invest your money. But the question I would ask Mr. Jones is, Mr. Jones, if you're advising me on where to invest my money in the stock market, have you made a lot of money in the stock market? Now, most people never ask this question. They're too, embarrassed. They're too ashamed. They're too intimidated. But this is exactly the question you should ask. Did you make a lot of money in the stock market? And if not, I would not trust my money with that guy. He's just getting paid commission. But he doesn't know anything that I don't know. I could just Google it and learn it on my own. So you don't want to listen to people who have degrees or who read books or who work in a certain position. You want to talk to people who actually did it, who are doing or did what you did and succeeded in that. So that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to talk to successful business people. I wanted to learn from successful business people. I wanted to read books written by successful business people who did what I want to do and did it successfully. And I learned that most of these people don't have MBAs. Most of them didn't major in business. They just got really good at their business. And I learned some things that were very, very different, okay? And so I will share some of those maybe in another video, the specifics of that, of what I think it takes to become a successful entrepreneur, but it has almost nothing. In fact, it has nothing to do with what you're going to learn in business school. So I just want to tell you, now a lot of students, and even a lot of adults, they think that they have to major in business, or I have a lot of students who tell me, oh, I want to have my own business someday, so I want to, major in business. And I always say to them, if you're interested in having your own business, you probably don't want to depend on your business degree. You got to find somebody who's really successful as an entrepreneur and learn from those people, okay? And that's the most important thing. So in real life, it's not like school. If you want to succeed in something, I think the smart thing and one of the first things you have to do is to learn from people who did it successfully, okay? If you want to learn how to get in shape, you don't want to learn from someone who's overweight, for example, right? And if you want to learn how to do well in business, it's the same thing. You got to learn from people who have been successful in business. And so it's very, very important. There's a big difference between a business degree and entrepreneurship, college and career, and make sure to not get those things confused. Just because you did well in school, don't assume you're going to do well in your career. You have to continue learning. You have to continue honing your skills. You have to continue to find out, what things do I not know that I need to know to make me successful in this thing. So I will leave you with this. Studies have shown, and I've heard that it takes about 10,000 hours to master something. Now, 10,000 hours, I've heard, one of my friends was telling me that he calculated 10,000 hours is about 3 years, okay, of study. Thinking back in my career, that's probably about right. I'm thinking, when I did sales, I never did sales before, and when I learned it, it took me about 2 years to really get good at it, to say, oh, I think I've mastered sales. When I think of engineering, I felt like it took me about 3 years to become an expert in my field, so that's about 10,000 hours. When I think about my education business, SAT, it probably took me 3 or 4 years to really, before I felt like I am a master at this, and it doesn't mean I stop. You keep going and keep going, keep going. And I've often said in my other videos that I've taught over 20,000 hours one-to-one teaching. And I keep going with that. I keep doing one-on-one. But there's no end to this. If you want to get really good at what you do and continue to be successful, not only just be successful, but continue to be successful. I think it's a different thing. It's much hard to do that. You have to continue improving, and you have to continue, reflecting and seeing, like, what other skills do I need? How do I get better and better? What other things can I do? What am I doing wrong? How do I get better? And keep learning and keep talking to people who are good at it. And I think that's the success. Do not make the mistake of thinking that if you finish college, you're done with your education. Real education begins after you graduate college, okay? I've read probably more books after college than I did up to college. And that's because I love learning. I just didn't like reading some of the books that like they had us read in high school and college. It didn't interest me very much. But when I found topics that really interested me, I tend to read a lot, and I want to learn all about that I can. And so I encourage you to do the same. And I think if you do that, you'll be more successful in what you do. So I just want to emphasize that today, and I hope you found that helpful. So until my next video, I hope you stay well.